Tired of the same old routine and eager for a new start? You're not alone. Like you, I once desired change and embarked on a thrilling self-learning journey. If you're craving a fresh beginning, join me on this exciting show. With captivating stories and practical advice in both business and health, I aim to equip you with the tools to navigate your own path and turn dreams into reality. I'm your host, Anita Daniker, and you're watching Have Healthy Success Radio. I am super excited about this guest that we have on today's show. Jim Daniker is an award-winning composer and producer. In addition to 27 years as keyboardist, musical director, and producer for iconic CCM artist Michael W. Smith, he has also produced several #1 albums, arranged and written music for film and television, created a music software line called Backstage Pass, and in January 2023, he retired from working with other artists to pursue his own dream project called Arcade Orchestra. It will reimagine the best music of the 80s in an epic live touring experience starting in 2024. And I think the most favorite thing that I love about Jim is that he is also my husband. Welcome to the show, babe.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome. I thought I'd start out with a few questions to help people to get to know you better. Here's the first one. If you can describe yourself in 3 words, what would those words be?
Oh my goodness. Passionate, driven. I don't know what the third one should be. I don't know if this counts as one word, but big-hearted.
It's a hyphenated word, so that works. Okay, okay, good. Those are very good. Very good words to describe you. What are the top 3 blogs or YouTube channels that you cannot live without each day?
Oh, man. I'm not much of a blog person. Or podcasts. I don't do any podcasts. I probably should, but definitely YouTube. I'm always watching gear videos, stuff about, synthesizers, obviously, music equipment. There are a few YouTubers that I tend to like. A friend of mine named Starsky Carr is one over in the UK. There are a few others. There's a guy that does reviews named Loopop, Loopop. He tends to be kind of clinical though, but I still like watching his stuff.
What's that one that you're constantly reading?
Oh, there's Gear Space. It used to have more of an inappropriate name, but they changed it to Gear Space. That's more of a forum, and I'm actually not on there a whole lot. I only tend to hop on there if I've posted something and I want to see what people are saying, or how they're responding. Other than that, there's a site called VI Control, which tends to be for composers, people that do film music, television music. I hop on there every couple of days. Those are really the only 2, other than YouTube these days, which is funny because up until about a year ago, I hardly ever was on YouTube. But that's kind of where everybody does all their...
And your channel's pretty...
Yeah, I put YouTube stuff... Yeah, when I post something, which is not all that often, obviously for the week or so that follows that, I get on and I try to see what people are saying and answer people's questions and stuff.
Honestly, people need to follow you because you put out, and for people who love gear and keyboards, and you put out incredible, you spend a lot of time up here in your studio creating videos. So people need to follow you for sure. What is a book that you have read that you would highly recommend to others?
Well, at the risk of instant sounding cheesy or whatever, the Bible. Because that's what I base my life on. I feel like, there are 2 books that have saved my life. One is the Bible. One is by, I think it's Henry Cloud, called Necessary Endings. That book has really helped me with some massive decisions I've had to make in life that were not fun decisions. But in terms of knowing, I tend to be, as you know, a chronic overthinker. And so when I have to make a big decision, I spend a lot of time thinking about it, praying about it, trying to figure out where's God leading me? What am I supposed to be doing? What is this going to look like? So Necessary Endings was one that was really important for me. Anything by C.S. Lewis. I love C.S. Lewis. Gosh, I've got a million books on my nightstand. as you know.
I know.
I tend to like
You have a lot of
autobiographies.
things on your nightstand.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. I love like some autobiographies. I'm a huge 80s music fan, which we'll probably get into, but Phil Collins, his autobiography I read most recently, I think, and that was interesting. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is my favorite question I'm going to ask you.
Oh boy.
Is what's your most favorite thing about your wife?
How much time is left on that memory card?
Good answer. Good answer.
My most favorite thing is that you are full of joy. There's a lot of things that are answered prayers about you, but the biggest one I think that just instantly comes to mind is how you wake up every day joyful. And I need that in my life because I tend to be somebody who you would say is pessimism. I think it's reverse optimism. I just see things as how good they could be. Oh dear.
All right. So you just, as I said earlier, you just experienced a transition in your career at the beginning of this year. Mm-hmm. But before we get to that, I'd love to know, have you talk about what got you started in the music business in the first place? So, two questions: how did you know that the 9-to-5 life was not for you, and then how did you get to where you've been the last 27 years?
Yeah, those are great questions. Well, I was born in 1973, so
we're going way back.
Way back. Well, it's important because I knew. Well, I shouldn't say nobody knows when you're in your single digits, but music got a hold of me really, really early. My first real memory, I think, is Star Wars. Seeing Star Wars in the theater at 4 years old. John Williams. That music just became so foundational for me. So, that was 1977, I think it was 80 or 81, Chariots of Fire, when that came out. That music captivated me. And that's when we started hearing synthesizers a lot in music. And so the 80s for me, that was such a pivotal decade. And so I think it was probably 1983 that I really started, between 83 and 85, when I started having any thought toward, well, what am I going to do with my life? And again, you don't really know that young, but by the mid to late 80s, I knew that, I was obsessed with music and particularly pop music. And I just dreamed at that point, I had no idea how to accomplish it, but I dreamed of doing music, playing shows, playing big arena / stadium things. That's every musician's dream. And so as far as actually accomplishing it, I just remember there was an art, growing up a pastor's kid, there was a lot of CCM music in our house, Christian contemporary music. So as much as I listened to 80s pop and film music at the same time, there were one or two CCM artists that I loved. One was Michael W. Smith. The other was Amy Grant. There were a few others, but those were the two that to this day, they're the king and queen of Christian pop music. And Michael's music in particular was huge for me because he's a gifted pop songwriter and his music was full of synthesizers. So it checked all the boxes for me. And by 1986 or 87, I think, I remember telling my family, I'm going to move to Nashville someday and work with that guy. And of course, they all laughed at the time. And, they would tell me, you better have a backup plan because the chances are better that you're going to get struck by lightning
Right.
than getting to work with somebody like that. Well, it wasn't even 10 years later. I moved to Nashville in 1995, and that summer I was sending resumes, which is kind of funny because there was nothing on them. But, it was demos and all that kind of stuff that I had created. And I just kept being persistent. And that fall, I got a phone call about being the tech, the computer guy that, built this elaborate computer system that ran Michael's show. And so they hired me for that first year, and that's what I did. And then the following year, the guy who was in my spot left, and I just approached Michael one day and I said, hey, look, I can do all this technical stuff, but I can play as well. And he knew by that point that I could play. And that was 27 years ago?
27 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm close to 28 now, I guess.
So what got you from Pennsylvania to Nashville? Like, how did you know, I'm going to buy a plane ticket and I'm going to move to Nashville, or I'm going to drive to Nashville?
Well, again, I didn't give myself the option. You asked earlier about was the 9 to 5 life for me. I knew like pretty early on. I worked for a music store in Pennsylvania or New Jersey, right across the border of Pennsylvania. And I worked there for a year and a half. I mean, it's looking back, it's a God story. There's no doubt about it. I mean, God, for whatever reason, picked me. And the reason I say that is there's no other explanation. You can say coincidence all day long. It's not. There are far too many things in my path that just make it obvious that again, whatever reason, I feel like God picked me to do what I did. But on my side of it, I just was obsessed as a kid, with, Michael's music, along with all the 80s pop stuff I was listening to. So that was the catalyst for me. Was I spent so much time absorbing all this music, and the little bit of college I did, I spent every waking hour filling notebooks with gear drawings. If I ever get this job, this is what the gear is going to look like. Because I'm as much technical as I am musical, I think. And I know what it was. I think there was a magazine other than Keyboard Magazine, which I read religiously every month it came out. I would devour it cover to cover. But there was also a magazine called CCM, which was about Christian contemporary music. And I read that as well because I was always trying to figure out how am I going to get into this. And the conventional wisdom was, well, you move to Nashville. That's where CCM music was based. And so one day I just felt like it was time. I was working at this music store, and I was still living at home. So every penny I made, I was putting into buying equipment. I probably bought more gear than I sold. So I don't think the music store owner liked me very much. But he was good to me. And so I just went to a travel agent one day. I bought a plane ticket, and I thought, I'm going to go down and find an apartment and find a job, just something to get me there. And lo and behold, one of these moments I was talking about, I walked in the house, and 10 minutes later, after buying that plane ticket, the phone rang, and it was a guy named Denny Keatsman, who was the tour manager for a group called DC Talk, which was really big back in those days. And he remembered me. I volunteered to work on stage at a music festival called Creation, which was like 80,000 kids, biggest Christian music festival on the planet. And he took a liking to me. He saw that I had a work ethic and all that kind of stuff. And he said, I've got a job for you, but it's not what you want. It's just driving a truck around the country all summer and setting up band gear. Would you be interested? And I said, Denny, I just bought a plane ticket 10 minutes ago.
Incredible.
And so came to town, got the job officially with them, but that wasn't going to be enough. So the other part enough to pay the bills. Okay. I mean, it was just, I was college age and I was going to drive a truck. That wasn't going to keep food on the table. So I walked into a music store. That was the most obvious thing. And I'd walked into this music store, told the guy my name, and I said, I'm looking for a job during the week. And he took me in his office and he said, what did you say your name was? And this guy's office was a rat's nest. It looked like an episode of Hoarders. It's a miracle he could find anything. But in this drawer, he opened this drawer, pulled out a business card, and it said, if Jim Daneker ever walks in and asks for a job, give him a job.
That's incredible.
So these two things, Denny called me and offered me a job, and this guy offered me a job at the music store. So I had just what I needed. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And that was the first summer. And then 5 months later, I was working for Michael. So it's a bizarre, crazy story.
So give us a glimpse of what the last 27 years of working for Michael has been.
Well, it was a dream come true. I mean, again, I dreamed of working with Michael as a teenager, and he was probably one of the most influential artists in my life. I mean, other than the 80s pop music I listened to all the time. So getting that call in the first place, it felt like I won the lottery. I mean, even though at that first year, I wasn't going to be in the band, I wasn't going to be playing, but it was probably the most important job on the tour in terms of, there's a lot of important jobs, but it was the role that involved, I had to build this big, elaborate computer system, which back then filled up a whole room. And it was my job to coordinate between the band and Michael and everybody else. And it had to it involved all the playback stuff and sending messages to all the equipment on stage to change their sounds and stuff for every song. And so I was in the hot seat. I had to hit start and stop for every song, which sent messages to the video wall. Like there was a whole video department. It sent, I'm trying to remember, there were other things about it. Was incredibly complex. But yeah, for that first year.
And you basically taught yourself how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, the 1 year that I went to college, it was community college, and it was, I didn't want to be there. I only did it because I promised my parents I would try college. I hated every second of it.
Did you even go to school? Did you go to classes?
I did have a professor who pulled me aside one day, and he said, "Now, Mr. Danaker, you know that to get a grade, you have to show up." I thought, yeah. So anyway, but the time I was there, I just filled all these notebooks with gear diagrams, and I was obsessed with gear. And so yeah, I was playing. I was doing my own shows, kind of traveling around the region in my parents' minivan with friends. We had a band called Duo, even though there were four of us. Me and my best friend Benji, we would travel around and play these shows. So I was learning by doing. You know, I was putting on these, and they were relatively elaborate concerts for a handful of teenagers, college age guys. You know, we rented sound and lights for the bigger shows, and yeah, it was crazy. I mean, but you learn by doing. You know,
that's amazing.
You're hot.
I'm the one that's married to super sexy guy over here who's smart and talented.
Okay, edit.
I might just have to keep that in there.
Okay, all right.
What are a few takeaways you've taken from the last 27 years?
First of all, I just realized I didn't finish answering your question. You asked what...
Give us a glimpse of what the last 27 years was like.
Yeah, glimpse. Well, it involved a ton of travel, obviously touring as a musician. Again, it was a dream come true because I got to see the world. I mean, we went to places that most people will never see. But seeing the world was an adventure. But of course, that has its downsides. I'm a family guy. I'm a homebody. I love being home. And so that part is difficult. And it got to be difficult, especially towards the last few years. After you've done it for close to 3 decades, standing in line at airports, especially in a post-COVID era, which it makes me want to grit my teeth. All the stuff, the hoops we had to jump through, that can be aggravating. And there's times in which, when you're especially overseas, you're not sleeping much for several days at a time. So there's people think it's glamorous. They see the 2 hours a day that you're on stage. Right. But they don't see the other 22 hours of the day, the planes, trains, and automobiles, and hotel rooms, and sitting around a fluorescent lit arena all day long. I mean, it's
like when people say, I want to do what you want to do, but then you respond and go, but do you really want to do what I do?
People don't know. But again, I don't want to sound like it's all negative. Those are just, in the grand scheme of things, it was a dream come true. I mean, getting to work with people like Michael and the people that he hires, they are the best of the best. My closest friends to this day are all still from that world. And I will never stop being grateful for those 27 years because it taught me a million things. It taught me how to do what I'm planning to do with the rest of my life. And it's just, there's nothing but lessons to learn and great people to work with. And so yeah, I mean, no job is perfect. You learn the ups and the downs, and there are things I'm always going to miss about it. There's things I'm not going to miss, but thank God I got to experience that with people like Michael. I mean, I love the guy, and I love his team and the people he's always surrounded himself with. And so, I mean, that's tiny glimpse. Mm-hmm. So now your other question was takeaways?
Yes, takeaways. So what are, if you can give us 3 major things that you learned about yourself, about music, about your giftings, anything in those 27 years?
Gosh, it's probably a long list, but I think one of the first things that comes to mind is you learn what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. But as a musician, you go through phases in your career when you're trying to figure out who it is you are and what you do. Early on, I think I had at least 3 phases I can remember. When I moved to Nashville, I thought I wanted to be the next Michael W. Smith. I wanted to be an artist and, put out albums and write songs. Well, I figured out pretty quickly I'm not a songwriter. I'm more of a composer, just strictly music. So that dream kind of went away pretty quickly. And I got to see Michael's life up close, and I realized, I don't want to be in the spotlight like that, because that's a whole other set of demands. So after that, I figured out, or I thought I figured out, I wanted to be a producer. That was the next logical step. Okay, well, I want to work with other artists, help them develop their music. And I did enough of that to realize that's not really what I want to do either, because half of that job is being a psychologist and, working with creative types. So, yeah, and I'm one of those. So, I realized that I didn't want to be a producer. But I did that for actually quite a while, at least, 20 years or so. And I had a decent amount of success doing that. But I won't talk about the negatives, but it can be rewarding. When you get a project you're really passionate about, it's wonderful helping
And you get to
other
work with
people.
great, incredible people. Yeah.
The third phase, I think, was I thought I wanted to be a full-time film composer. And I did enough of that to realize, man, that's a language I speak really easily. I love scoring to picture, but that career will eat you alive as well. You have no time. I mean, to most guys, like one of my favorites, James Newton Howard, I saw a documentary one time where he went through a typical 24-hour day. He would start writing at 9 o'clock in the morning, work until probably midnight. So what is that, 15 hours? And then by 2 in the morning, he would be handing over everything to an orchestrator and copyist who would spend the rest of the night, orchestrating and getting sheet music ready for the musicians. 24 hours after it's written, they'd be in the studio recording. And he would do that for 9 weeks straight. So it's like
very little sleep.
You have little sleep, no outside life. And so while I love that art form, it's not for me because I value my family and time at home. And it helped me realize what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, what I'm good at, and what I want to do and what I don't want to do. But you got to do all of that to figure out what you don't want to do.
Process.
Yeah.
So tell us about the transition between those 27 years and what you're doing now, and how did you get to that place of going, now's the time?
Try and answer that as quickly as I can. It's funny because when I look back over the last 10 years or so, I've never lost my love of 80s music. I just adore 80s pop music. Obviously, I love synthesizers. That's a big part of that. And when I did my sound series called Backstage Pass, the one product in that product line called DX Dreams, it's based on all these 80s synthesizer sounds. I had no idea when I did that. I think that was 2019, 2020. That was a big stepping stone. And as I was finishing that, I just realized it kind of rekindled my desire to work on that kind of music. One of the biggest demos I did for that was this medley of 25 snippets of 80s pop songs. So after I did that, I look back and I'm like, man, I would love to do something with those sounds, and recreate some of that stuff. And with my film music side, there's that side of me, the cinematic, the Hans Zimmer, John Williams, James Newton Howard, that kind of thing. I just kind of always had it in my head. And when I did my solo album called Ad Alta in 2016, that album incorporated a lot of those things. It incorporated some of the pop stuff, even though it doesn't sound like that. The bass rhythm aspects were basically U2, Coldplay, that kind of thing, meets this big cinematic stuff. But really, the big catalysts were, I was just growing restless. I think in my time on the road, I started getting to the point where I felt like I'm ready for a new chapter. I don't know what that's going to be or what that looks like, but I think God just puts it in you when it's time to start looking toward making a change. And in fact, people would ask me after I did Ad Alta, I had so many people would say, how are you going to follow that up and when? And I never knew what the answer was. And then Caitlin, our daughter, she got us into watching Stranger Things. And I got hooked because it's not my favorite genre by any means, but the music and just the way that they portray life in the 80s, it just pulled me right in. And just, it didn't take more than 2 or 3 episodes where I started listening to the music and I thought, oh man, they are bringing the 80s back. And so I had that in my head for the last couple of years. And then I started seeing more and more of that kind of thing. Cobra Kai, which was, the TV remake of Karate Kid. Same thing. And then I think the pinnacle of it was last year when Top Gun Maverick hit, and it just obliterated records. I mean, it just shattered the box office. And I took Caitlin to see that after showing her the original movie, and all the way home, she just couldn't stop talking about, Dad, you grew up in the best decade. You had the best music. You had, everything was fun and optimistic, and it wasn't depressing, and just, and that conversation it kept sticking in my head. And I thought, you know what? I think I know what I want to do with the next couple of years. And it's to marry all of this incredible 80s pop music, all these iconic songs that everybody knows, but wear both of my musical hats, the 80s pop side with the orchestral cinematic side. And I thought, I think there's a way to marry those and then end up building an immersive live experience out of that everybody would love. And so as far as actually doing it, it was just a matter of, okay, well, I needed to start praying about when do I take this leap? What does that look like? When do I, because to do it, I'm going to have to step away from a 27-year career with Michael. And that's scary. It's a big step.
And an income that you can rely on.
Right. Even, yeah. I mean, I don't how to talk about that part. But yeah, it's on one hand, there's no job that's truly secure. I mean, people think, well, didn't you have a secure thing? And I did, in terms of I'd be able to stay with Michael probably as long as I wanted to. But it's still not completely secure in the fact that if Michael decides to take 6 months off,
there's no income.
There's no income.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that was challenging for 27 years.
True.
And so in that sense,
You're used to it. That's normal.
Yeah. I thought, well, it's just a matter of, I just got to find some people who believe in this idea and find some investors, and, no job is secure. But I quickly got to the point where I thought, I can't not try this, because I'll regret it the rest of my life if I don't.
Well, how do you deal with, obviously during that process, I'm sure you had doubts and fears about it too. So how do you deal with those things when you have them?
You have to decide that, I'm trying to think of the phrase, what happens if I do this and I fail? You flip that coin and you say, well, what happens if it succeeds? Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what? It's such a good idea. Probably my biggest fear was, what happens if somebody else does it
before you have
before
a chance?
Me?
Yes.
Because the more I heard, in fact, the last season of Stranger Things, there were a couple Journey songs in there that they did in exactly this big cinematic style. And I remember watching it with you and elbowing you. See, somebody's going to do this. And just based on the strength of the idea and talking with some industry friends, every time I would share the idea, people would say, "Oh my gosh, this is a no-brainer. Somebody's going to do it. It might as well be you." And so I just got to the point where I thought, okay, I could stay safe and ride into the sunset as long as Michael wants to do what he's doing. But at some point, he's 15 years older than me. So at some point, that's going to end one way or another. And I didn't want to be left standing there, whatever it is, 5-10 years from now or whenever it is. And then what do I do? Mm-hmm. I just started looking around and feeling like, you know what, I've got to take a risk. And yes, it's scary. There's no guarantee that this is going to work, but the odds are so good. I think that, I know what my skill set is, and I think I have no doubt I can bring something to the table that is compelling and intriguing and with enough artistic merit. And of course, the music, it sells itself. Mm-hmm. Everybody loves the 80s. So I just started thinking, well, I know what my skill set is. And if I do my job, and if I bring this kind of content to the world, I don't think it's going to be that hard to find people who believe in it as well. And so, yeah, it's still probably close to a year away, but we've got some investors now on board, and we're still looking for more. And we're talking to, potential corporate sponsors and stuff like that. And it's both thrilling, exciting, and a little bit scary because there are no guarantees. You know, I mean, look at COVID. That shut down the whole touring industry for 2 years. That was rough. Who's to say that couldn't happen again? You know, I don't know. But I'm just trying not to worry about it. I'm just trying to put one foot in front of the other, live each day to the max and do the best job I can and keep selling the idea, keep showing people this is what it's going to look like. And
Well, what is it going to look like? What's a night? First of all, is it one show? Is it going to be more than that? And what is an actual, when someone walks into the arena, what is it going to feel like? What's it going to look like?
Well, it's going to start with a debut show here in Nashville, hopefully at Bridgestone Arena. We're shooting for the moon. We want to. This really can't be. It can't be a small show. People have said, well, what if you start at Franklin Theater or which holds 300 people, or what if you do it at TPAC or a smaller venue or like the Ryman?
Just a couple thousand.
It's not going to work. It has to be a big epic experience because our goal is we want people to walk in and feel like they've walked into a massive show 35 years ago in the middle of the 80s. It should look like Genesis, Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel, Def Leppard, Simple Minds. I mean, the Tears for Fears, all the biggest acts in the 80s. You should walk in and feel like, oh my gosh, if you lived through that time, I mean, even the smells in the air, like we're talking about bringing back iconic candy and merchandise. And I mean, everything from members only merch to Trapper Keeper. I mean, and all the snacks. And I mean, we're talking about building basically a mall that will have a Sam Goody music where all of our guest artists can sell CDs, tapes, vinyl.
Amazing. So fun.
Clothing. I mean, we want it to be truly immersive so that when you go to an Arcade Orchestra show, you walk out saying, that's the best night I've had in 35 years. So yes, it'll start with one show. And then the idea is we turn it into a tour. First, it'll tour major markets in the US. And then probably in 2025, we start taking it overseas. And because it really should be a global phenomenon. I mean, that's the idea because it's based on the content. People have said, well, how are you going to fill Bridgestone if nobody knows the artist? We are hoping to have some household names involved, but whatever the case, it's the content.
Yes, that's right.
Who wouldn't want to see a 3-hour show of all this incredible 80s music with a live orchestra and a Stickyard, which is this massive tribal percussion ensemble.
Now it's not just orchestra, right?
No, it's not just orchestra. It's gonna be more of a pop rock show that happens to have orchestra. It's not gonna be a symphony show where it's coat and tie. You know, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be like seeing the biggest bands of the 80s that just happens to have orchestral elements. So it's almost like if Trans-Siberian Orchestra and Hans Zimmer put on a show of 80s music. That's kind of the idea.
So awesome. It's going to be incredible. Well, is there anything else you would like to tell our audience?
I mean, we're obviously, this is one of many steps along the way. Hopefully, we're going to start putting out singles in September. The idea was that we first thought we should have an album done, by summer or fall this year. That's not going to happen. There's just so much to do. And at this point, the song list it's sitting at 37 songs, and actually more because some of them are medleys. That's a massive amount to do in the next year. But what we are going to do is we'll start putting out singles that will give you the idea of what this is going to start sounding like, and we'll do some videos that kind of give you the idea. So I guess I would say people can start watching for that. Yeah, and then the idea is one single a month leading up until the first show. So by the time we get to the first show, we should have an album's worth. And we'll certainly have an album ready by then. But it's just too epic to be able to try and do an album now. I mean, we got to just focus on one song at a time. And so, yeah, that's basically it. And again, if you know investors who might be interested, it's a really, really promising financial prospectus for somebody who wants to get involved on that side. Corporate sponsors, all that kind of stuff. But really the focus is the music. And I think if we do what we're aiming to do, that'll follow. I mean, it's going to be epic. I also want to talk briefly about what my wife is doing. She's got this cool new channel and website and all this kind of stuff for people who want to be healthy. You tell them.
So it's a radio show focused on people who have an entrepreneurial mindset. It's called Have Healthy Success Radio. And it's basically, we're going to hit topics with business and health both. But it's a lot of people like my husband here, who's more of the entrepreneurial type. And I want to have a lot of, it's going to hit incredible stories like his, as well as practical how-tos. So I'm willing to help people who want to figure out, how do I even get started? What do I do? So there's going to be practical how-tos as well. But it's Have Healthy Success Radio, and it's havehealthysuccess.com.
There you go. Anything else? Have we covered everything?
We have.
Okay.
I think so. Well, thanks, Jimbo, for hanging out with me today and doing this. And I will see you all next week.
Thanks for watching.
Do you want to discover how to overcome limitations, set meaningful goals, build resilience, and develop positive habits while harnessing the transformative power of prayer? Visit havehealthysuccess.com to unlock your true potential. You can download the Ultimate Success Mindset Guide for free and embark on your journey towards a fulfilling and abundant life. I look forward to seeing you here next time.